Okay. Wow. Alto. Welcome. Afternoon. Welcome. So my name is Roberto Company. I'm principal analyst with Omdia, a research house. So part of my research is around Open RAN and certification, and I've just worked on a report around opportunities for SI. So this breakout session is perfect for me and the timing. Thank you for the invitation from TIP. And so just to give you, the agenda's not there, but just to introduce the agenda, we have Daniel Agudo from TIP. He's going to give you a little bit of an introduction about what he does. And then there'll be a presentation from Holger Erkens from Deutsche Telekom. And then some use case presentations, one from Chang from ITRI Labs, and one from Yuldinawati from Telekom University. And then we'll have our panel. So we'll go a bit more deeper into some of the questions and what it is and what certification means and what the industry should do to come together to boost and we can scale Open RAN. So with that, Daniel, the floor is yours.
All right. It's working, right? Yeah. Thank you very much for coming for this breakout session about the blueprints and deliveries for success. My name is Daniel Agudo. I'm the technical program manager, for those that you don't know me, in the Open RAN project group. I'm going to give you a brief introduction for the context of this session, which is basically the need for references within a certification framework and how TIP is participating in achieving this goal. So it's going to be taking 10-15 minutes. Hopefully I can just give an idea of what we have been doing in the past and what we are currently doing and what is expected in the future. So basically, I will start defining the situation as it was with the traditional RAN procurement. That was a model that was very simple to consume, but offer limited choice of operators. Then Open RAN started this aggregated model, basically, that provides a choice of suppliers, but also provides inefficiencies in the integration, validation, and the most important thing, life cycle management. So currently, mobile operators, and this is what we have realized, currently mobile operators are forced to trade off choice of suppliers versus process efficiency. And this is the point where TIP has been focused to improve this situation. So let's go in a journey from where we started. That was the model used so far, TIP, what we call TIP 1.0. TIP 1.0 was a community-focused approach that was appropriate for the early years of initiating Open RAN, when we had the first vendors in the market, first operators interested in this. Was a foundational initiative that was very useful just to showcase the solutions that were there in the market and how they could be used. Everything was based basically on a one-to-one testing between vendor and operator, and to showcase the technology maturity was very good. Actually, it was driven the market just to understand that we had more mature solutions. However, in the new TIP model, now we are changing the approach. Now it's time to change. To where? To a certified framework. So in contrast, this is what we call TIP 2.0. It's also called Scope. Probably you have seen this name many times during this event. It's very focused on industrialized, commercial-grade, full system certification. So the emphasis of a Scope is on upper TRLs, which are the technology readiness levels, and on certified full system solutions. Actually, I have just put this picture here where you can see which are the levels which are defined, and I have also wanted to make a differentiation between what Oran Alliance is doing and what TIP is doing. That is coming later as a summary in the next slide. So actually, the focus is primarily the certification of pre-integrated stage carried out within the supply chain. So the main goal of the Scope is, of course, is a full system certification, but also emphasizing the need for subsystem certification as well, like Open Fronthaul, CAS, Massive MIMO, SMO, and etc. So where we stand as ready for purchase SIP and stack. So basically, TIP would like to enable this. Actually, this is what I was telling you in the previous slide. So we had a very beginning step, which is the product interoperability testing. And this is where all alliances give you the confidence that the product combination has been implemented to the ORAN specifications. Then TIP, through the system release certification, is giving the confidence that the system satisfies the requirements from the operators and also reduce the integration time for them to be performed by these operators. And last, the acceptance testing, which is done by the operator with the final field acceptance testing ahead of commercial deployment. So basically, the idea is that we can provide a certification framework that it is almost ready for that commercial deployment. We used to say 80% done, 20% to be done at the operator side. So if we zoom in a little bit more what we are doing in TIP, actually these are different steps that we are carrying out in this certification process. So we start with the line and supply of demand, which are the requirements that we do receive from the operators, which are the responses that we are getting from the vendors in order to understand which is the state of the art for the features and requirements that we do receive. And with that, we can build an industry roadmap, which is available today, what is going to be available in the future, in the short, medium, long term. So actually, we've got a very nice picture of the current release. Then we go through the system certification, which is basically towards the goal of test one and deploy many at full market scale. And we will be talking about this during this session, which is basically how we do provide references, how do we do provide test plans just to accomplish this goal. Then, of course, what it has been already done on the certification phase needs to be published, and this is what we do in TIP Exchange 2.0. So actually, that is I will show you a picture of what is the information that you can find over there. And last but not least, and which is the lifecycle management, this is that we restart the process, again, in a new release, or when a new software is coming or whatever, so we restart the process again. So what is important of blueprints and test plans? So actually, the idea is that, if you recall, moving from one-to-one testing environments towards global certification. So for us, and what we have been just working in the last year in TIP, a high-quality blueprint is main reference to provide a technical solution to a proposed scenario or use case. So very important point, this blueprint must be vendor independent and can be used with multiple vendor combinations. Actually, that is the idea, that a blueprint is just a reference, but does not refer to any vendor. It's just a solution to certain use cases. And I'm saying in the last sentence here, within TIP, we have defined 21 scenarios for macro, for indoor, and for RAN sharing. So there are many of them that you can check it out in our website. So basically, along with the test plan, this can lead into TIP certification process. So let's recall the first slide where we started talking about the traditional model towards the Open RAN. So actually here you can see the model that where we started. So actually we had different vendors that were testing all the solution, the complete solution. So we had vendor A testing one solution, vendor B and vendor C testing different solutions. So actually that is the traditional model I was talking about at the very beginning. So it's a full RAN system validation performed by sole one operator. Then we've got a optimal disaggregation. In this case, we've got multiple choice, but it is not efficient because each operator is testing on their own. And this is the point, last point that I will be focused, which is the optimal disaggregated network. So actually, we are going to be testing, certifying solutions, and it's going to be tested only once, okay? Because that is going to be the reference for in the future. So if we focus on that last point, in last square, and we focus on the process itself, then we can see that we have got different operand systems through system requirement validation processes that are tested differently, and then we are just coming out to different system definitions that can be used, as you can see there, with multiple vendors. So actually there is a blueprint that can be used with that combination. Actually those are examples that I use for reference purposes only, but you can use NEC, Mavenir, Dell, Nokia, that combination. And that is a combination that, there is one vendor, one operator A, which finds, that is quite interesting for my scenario. But also there can be another scenario, another operator somewhere else in the world that can use this scenario as well. But it could be also, similar testing with some other vendors and running on the same scenario. So the idea is that we are reaching out different levels of certification within TIP depending on the readiness of the solution. So we are coming from bronze to gold on the readiness or the maturity of the product. So actually we are just giving the bronze badge to those products that are compliant with the requirements, but also now we are giving, and this is the focus of this session, the silver and the gold are given to those that have gone through a certification process, right? So basically the idea is that when we are giving a silver badge, this is something that is under a control environment, and when we are just going to the gold, it's because the solution is at a commercial grade. Again, this is that we have done the certain certification, is 80% more or less ready to go for the market, and the last step of acceptance must be done by the operator itself. I mentioned before that the TIP Exchange is where we show these results. So actually you can see over there, that is a screenshot where you can see that there is a solution, in this case with Delta and Capgemini, that has been awarded with the gold badge. And then at the right, you can see which have been the use cases that this is referring to, the blueprint that has been referred to, the test plan to be used, the results, and everything. So actually, any operator just can take this information and replicate in the network. That is the goal that we are trying to achieve. Last but not least, that is my last slide. Just wanted to show, because it's going to be part of the discussions that we'll have in the panel later, but some of the benefits on this new certification model. Basically, I wanted to highlight some of them for the operators that we have identified. We have been talking to them. First of all, is the confidence to purchase system from an increased and competitive fields. Actually, it has been already tested, and that is something that you can save a lot of time and efforts in the certification process by themselves. Time and cost savings, which is important, which is a way of reducing the efforts to be done. For the system integrators and certification labs, so actually that is an opportunity for testing new solutions and not always the same. For the incumbent and rising OEMs, there is a certified process for selling and delivering Open RAN equipment to operators. And for the vendors, extremely easy is to figure it out, which is basically that they give the promotion of the products in a worldwide ecosystem. In any case, I guess that Roberto will come later with the questions in the panel, just to discuss this with our guest for this one. So that is the end of my presentation. So I give the floor to Holger for the presentation. So thank you very much.
Hello, you hear me? I think so. So, good afternoon. My name is Holger Erkens. I'm working for Deutsche Telekom as a senior partner manager. And I was asked by the TIP friends to talk about the one operator view on certification. How do we see it? I called my presentation the essence of success in multi-vendor Open RAN, and that should already give an idea of how we see that. So certification will be key to enable multi-vendor openness in an Open RAN ecosystem. Short introduction. Now, maybe let's have a look at Open RAN in principle. Let's review a little bit the story we are currently writing. So we set out for a mission a couple of years ago, right? So everything was fine, everything was in place, we had our radio systems running. Still, we wanted to embark on a journey for a couple of reasons, right? And I just put a couple here. So we wanted to get more vendor diversity because we saw that over the years, more and more vendors were somehow vanishing, right? Either acquired or missing in a different way. We want to keep supply chains resilient, particularly after the Corona times where many of you might have faced similar issues than we, that it became more difficult to get the equipment that you need. Maybe just because of one missing microelectronic component or something. And if you get more vendor diversity, it is easier to exchange one or the other component, right? Then innovation for sure, and I think everybody thinks about the RIC first place when I talk about innovation here. We're not there yet, but we are getting there. And then last but not least, I think everybody thinks about virtualization when we think about Open RAN. So we can apply all these nice and shiny CI/CD processes all over the radio sites. That would be the great future. I chose this picture for a particular reason. So usually the Gartner hype cycle is shown here, right? So we had this inflated expectations and as well these ideas of success. And I think now after a couple of years with Open RAN, we are getting into a stable situation. But maybe we have a look at that. So where are we in the moment? I would say we got our feet off the ground. Yeah? So we see first deployments happening. I guess yesterday, Andrea from Vodafone showed very impressive results of their UK deployments, right? So they said 90% of the KPIs are already exceeding traditional RAN systems, which is really super cool to hear, right? But that comes with a couple of compromises. So in this early stage, we need to compromise either on the vendor set, so it is not that many vendors in an Open RAN system. Maybe you have 1 or 2 radios via Open Fronthaul, and the rest might be a little bit pre-picked by the CUDU supplier. You have reduced compliance to Open RAN standards still, right? Also because the standards are not that or they are maturing. I guess some open interfaces are a little bit further advanced, but still there's a long way to go. So there's still a lot of proprietary extensions to the standards, which should change over time. And then last but not least, we also see only selected features today, right? So for example, in Europe, we are still relying on 2G. Not everybody can deliver that. Or the RIC, particularly the near RT RIC, is also a little bit down the road, right? So still, we are getting into commercial deployments. Also on our side, DT, we announced 2 deployments this year during MWC, one in Germany and one in a European country. And we're getting forward with that. So things are moving, right? So we can say, okay, now the basics are set. Let's look maybe on the things we still need to do, we still need to tackle. And one of the more important things is then, after we started with reduced vendor set, to enable multi-vendor interoperability, so to come to real Open RAN systems. But what do we need to do for that? There are 2 points. First, we need to cut to a level of maturity of the standards that it makes it easy to implement a radio with a CUDU, not in 9 or 12 months, but maybe in 1 month. That would be the one thing. So reduce the complexity because of missing standards to the max, and then implement certification. Because without certification, the things need to be done over and over again, maybe a couple of dozen times. And that means you have a lot of complexity and you have a lot of cost that you could avoid. And certification could help here. And yeah, let's see where we are with that. With certification, you may not have been there, but our dear Franz Seiser, who's the master of disaster when it comes to Open RAN in Deutsche Telekom, already asked for a certification regime in April this year. I think we will see much more in 2024, and let's see what is missing still, okay? So first, let's review what we have. We have already in place certification systems both by O-RAN Alliance and by the Telekom Infra project, aiming at very different things. So our view is that O-RAN Alliance is taking care very much of their own standards, right? So whatever has been defined in the standards should be tested in an open test and integration center and should get a certificate for that. And TIP is much more looking into this area of product readiness, right? So whatever is related with readiness, with stability or with performance or with features should go into a TIP community lab. So there are certification systems for both, and Daniel just showed the one from TIP. Yeah, and there are also other efforts in the ecosystem to tackle the system integration complexity issue. We know, for example, OREX, I guess Abeta-san was quite vocal yesterday and today on the approach that Docomo is doing. Or another example is Dell's Open Telecom Lab, where they also do system integration and ease the pain of the operators, the customers, yeah. Still, particularly when it comes to certification, there is still some way to go. There are the systems from Oran Alliance and TIP, but what we monitor is that the ecosystem is not really clear on how to make use of that, and that needs to change. Yeah? So there are different roles in the ecosystem, vendors, system integrators, operators, and each and every of those, let's say, roles in the ecosystem needs to find the benefits of certification. Yeah? So what does it mean for Capgemini, for example, certification? What does it mean to us? Which of the parts of Oran Alliance and TIP certification do we need to take care of as operators, and which are more important for vendors, for example? So I think that needs to be sorted out, and maybe as a community effort, because today, as long as we don't know why we should work on it, right? I drafted a couple of open points here that I would hope we can tackle soon. So first, we need to really agree on the purpose. Yeah, so what is the purpose behind certification? Why do we need to do it? And then how should we do it? It can only run if we find, let's say, a globally orchestrated way between the communities and between the labs to perform certification. Then we need to identify the labs where this could be done. Yeah, so we see plenty of labs popping up all over the planet. The question is, do these labs have the capabilities to deliver a testing scope that is sufficient to bring a solution close to acceptance testing in an operator? Yeah, for that you need maybe a little bit more than 2 or 3 engineers and a TN500, probably. Then the question on the industry bodies. We know there is TIP, there is Oran Alliance, and I put the elephant in the room. There is no 100% precise alignment between the two communities, how they should interact, cooperate with each other, right? I think there is no bad intention behind it. It's just the lack of, let's say, enough details to work on, and maybe not still, like with the roles in the ecosystem, right? Still not the need known enough. So maybe we can work on that as well. And then we need to have all of the certificates we could put in a very scalable procedure. So let me make an example. We already have blueprints, right? We have blueprints from the colleagues of Tim and Orange for various scenarios. And now, how do you bring them into sequence? Yeah? So when do you make use of what? And when do you need to make use of what? Do you know this today? I'm not sure. I don't know it, to be open, and I think that is a question I would like to clarify. And then, what is our role as operators, and what is the role of the vendors in that? So I would say from us as operators, what we want is to have an open system. Yeah? So we want to make use of test cases that have been created somewhere else, and we want to have that as open source, but that means as well we need to contribute. Yeah? So we as operators need to put much more effort into the community, for example of TIP, to bring this forward and to benefit afterwards from that. And then last but not least here, we need to integrate this as well in our organizations. I would say today, as long as certification is only a little bit a cloudy thing that nobody is really making use of, we are not clear how to use it, and we need to make sure we know how to use it. So we need to enable our procurement departments, for example, to make use of that. Vendors may need to enable their sales departments to deliver that, and we need to transfer the idea behind that from, let's say, more the strategic departments that are currently taking care of Oran to the operational departments and the engineering departments that are supporting procurement decisions. That is the long list. We should work on that soon, and I have a couple of wishes for 2024, so it's already October, so I think it's good to have some Christmas wishes for the next year. So let's say we come together here again October next year, I hope so. What should be tackled until then? A couple of easy things. So first, I would hope for a couple of first certificates. They don't need to be super comprehensive, but they need to show the direction, and we can always add on what we created there. Yeah? I think the most difficult part is to bring that up and running. I think TIP did a tremendous work on setting up blueprints, the framework around already, but we need to bring it into action now and into, let's say, a couple of tangible certificates that we as operators can really make use of. Then we need to have a forum, particularly for this point, yeah, so that we as operators, we as vendors, we as system integrators, we can all say, okay, this is the value we see in it and we drive it forward jointly. So this needs to happen. In the moment I don't see this happening. Maybe one of the two communities that I'm referring to is all of the time is one of the ones where we should do this. Yeah. And then last but not least, let's really understand what needs to happen in which community. One idea that we could have is, let's say, O-RAN Alliance taking care of these very basic things is the entry gate for a TIP certificate, yeah? And then when a TIP certificate is issued, then there could even be a feedback loop to O-RAN Alliance to tell, okay, guys, this went well, here we need to work on to bring these two communities much closer together, because that is what they should be, right? Close together and not fragmented in any way. So after my wish list, I end here. I hope this brought some interesting ideas to you, and I'm really, really open to discuss that with everybody here. Thank you.
Any questions for Holger here? Sure.
So one simple question. This, I 100% agree with all your wishes. It's 100% in the right direction. But how we can ensure that vendors who will be Open RAN in all the stack have enough cash to do this?
That's a very valid question, I would say. Thank you for that. It depends on how we implement it. I would say my proposal would be to be open. In the end, we operators, we need to pay for it. Yeah, I mean, we buy the product, it's clear we pay for it. The question is, how do you do the monetization, right? And what we would think of is that a certificate doesn't come for free. That is anyways not possible because it needs to run in an open lab. Open labs will have limited capacity, so open lab will need to charge. Why should you go there if it costs you money? Because we will ask you, dear vendor, bring this in an RFP process. Maybe we carve out a couple of requirements, but for that we put in a certificate. Means if you want to be part of an RFP, you need to bring it, and I think that should be enough, let's say, motivation to go to the open lab and do it, and then you put it on the bill for the radio network. Does that make sense?
One last question, if any.
Hello. Hello, I am Sergio from the Zhonghua Telekom Taiwan. Yes, so I have another simple question followed by the last questions. Yes, basically, when we talk about the Open RAN, usually we will tell your name it's cost effective and it's energy saving. But when you compare with the legacy vendors like Nokia and Ericsson, they use the ASIC chipset to build their own BBU portfolio. Yeah, so basically they provide a very super low energy consumption. Another is a super low price. So I'm interested whether we have some strategy in the blueprint to create such a portfolio for the Open RAN to minimize the gap between the current Open RAN with the legacy portfolio. Yes, this is my questions. Thank you.
Now I need to repeat the question because I'm not sure if I fully got it. So the question is, how can we close the technology gap between traditional and Open RAN vendors by doing this here?
Yes.
Okay. There are a couple of things. I think the most important one is, you may know we have formed a group of operators in Europe that works together on priorities, right? So the so-called MOU group, Memorandum of Understanding, Vodafone, Telekom, Telefonica, Orange, and TIM. And we put out requirements. Yeah? And we are also collaborating on that with our friends from TIP, sorry. Yeah, so you could say the TIP requirements are very close to what we do in the MOU requirements. And here we can put things like what kind of energy efficiency we would demand, let's say, to deploy something in the network. And that gives new vendors a very good idea where to aim for. And certificates can go into the same direction, right? If we say in a certificate you need to meet a certain level of energy efficiency, then you know, right? So, and then you know what to work against. Can we take over the R&D efforts Open RAN guys need to do? I don't think so, but I think we can give a very good direction.
Okay, thank you, Holger. Okay, so for the next one, can I welcome Ray Chang from ITRI Labs for your presentation. The floor is yours.
Hello. Hi, everyone. This is Ray from Taiwan ITRI Lab. And today I will sharing the experience on the blueprint writing with TIP. I am ITRI. ITRI stands for Industry Technology Research Institute. Our two main work is, one is for research development. The other one is for industry promotion. We have a comprehensive 5G supply chain in Taiwan, including CPE, small cell, or transport. Especially small cell, we have an all-in-one and the all-RAN solution in Taiwan, and the ORU and the CUDU in our industry. We built up the carrier-grade 5G open network in 2019. Our funding is mainly from our government Ministry of Economy Affairs. And in 2021, we proved by TIP as the first integration TIP integration lab in Asia. So in our lab, we can conduct the batch testing, including Open RAN, DCSG, and the Open Wi-Fi. The achievements in 2020 and 2023 as the role of the TIP lab. We already successful have 7 companies in Taiwan to win the TIP badge by TIP Beijing system in our lab. And we cooperate with Taiwan operator. Deeply, a special Taiwan Mobile have committee to join forces with TIP, and they are pre-testing Open RAN solution in our lab. And we deeply sharing our test item with Zhonghua Telekom, just and the Far East Telecom. So why we cooperate blueprint with TIP this year? This is because TIP new Beijing policy this year. As you see here, they have in the Open RAN they have 21 scenarios, and each one have its own blueprint. And if you want to win the end-to-end testing badge, or maybe silver or golden badge, you have to comply to a bronze badge first. So in Taiwan, our vendors are willing to win the TIP badge for a promotion, but no existed the blueprint for the scenario for 15. Scenario 15 is for indoor small cell. So we cooperate this blueprint with TIP this year for. We work for maybe 3 or 4 months this year. And this blueprint, scenario 15, is mainly for mono operator indoor small cell with VDU, VCU, and the open front hall. The content of this blueprint, you can see here, including the blueprint goal and the use case definition, and the architecture and the product configuration here, and the feature state, and the functional KPI. We define two architecture in this blueprint. One is 5G SA with AU. AU is aggregation unit. And the other one is 5G SA without AU. And the ORU is connect to BBU directly by ECPRI interface. In the 4.3 session, in the session 4.3 is the product configuration. In this station, it shows what is the main product configurations, how to serve the use case, the purpose of use case, including of components, interfaces, and power consumption, and so on. The items is mainly from the Open RAN group requirements and the common terms from vendors. And in the session 4.4, it shows the is a future say. It shows the fundamental features that performs the use case. Two major parts is here. You can see in the right side is the common terms for the vendors worldwide. And in the left side, in the right side, sorry, in the right side you can see is the regional requirement, also called local requirements here. You can define your own local requirements here. For my example, in Taiwan, our government used the band N79 as the private network band. So we add this band here. Finally, the final session is 4.5. 4.5 is the functional KPI. Also stand for tip. Also stand for tip plan. Test plan. Sorry. Just based on the Open RAN small cell test plan, version 1.0, and the version 1.1 just with the revised by our ITRI, and the category, the testing category, including the hardware testing, and the performance testing, and the functional testing here. Total test cases are 50. So finally, I want to share you some idea on the blueprint writing. For a writing, how to start a writing? If you want to write a blueprint for your local requirement, you can find the example on the tip on Confluence, such as you can find a scenario 2 for auto small cell, auto macro, and scenario 15 for small cell. And the open Wi-Fi, so on. And you can reference the general requirement from Open RAN MOU group. And you can see the TRD. TRD is technical requirement document for specific scenario. You can see this TRD file on the subgroup website. And for specific feature or call it regional requirement, you can gather it from your local vendors and the operators. Now, final is the definition of a use case, and the architecture test instrument should be included in the blueprint. Final, for our testing experience feedback, how to let more vendors to join the testing activity via blueprint. This is very important. For my experience, DUT, the testing device architecture are various, but all of they obey the specification that Alliance define. But they and the configurations should be include more options. So these two changes can make more vendors to join the activity. And we ITRI as a role of the community lab, we will continue to contribute the opinions from Taiwan vendors and operators. Finally, you can see here we have two ongoing projects in Taiwan, Silver Beijing project, just based on the blueprint 15 here. Okay, thank you for your listening. This is my experience on blueprint. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ray. Any questions for Ray? I think everyone wants to see the panel. Okay, can I welcome Leah Yuldinawati, please, for your presentation?
Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Leah Yuldinawati. I'm come from Indonesia, and I'm a director of strategic partnership and international office from Telkom University. So I'm hosting. We are hosting also the TIP Community Lab, the first one in Southeast Asia, and the third in Asia, and also the 14th in the world. So we want to share because this is the lab hosting in university. So we have more than 30,000 students in our university with more than 1,000 researchers from 7 faculties. And what we are done from 3 years since 2020, this is our activities. So we are working closely with the government to do several things, how we prepare about development, supply, and demand ecosystem. Last year also we joined the Fyuz with the Ministry of ICT from Indonesia. And also how we prepare about the next generation for the talent, digital talent. This is also something that we prepare not only about the trial, but also about the resource. So we're working with the Ministry of ICT, how we preparing about the next generation. So we do for more than 600 digital talent scholarship certification program. This is the scholarship from the ministry for the young generation. So after they get the training and the certification, this young generation will be the resource to help do the training, do the trial, and do the deployment, and also how manage the Open RAN. And also related to the policy engagement, we are working closely how we want to abroad initiate agreement and initiate collaboration, not only in Indonesia, but we are also do some initiate with the USAID, and then also USTDA, and right now also with the Ministry of Information Communication in Japan. And we see also that the Open RAN, if you are talking about the Open RAN, we cannot working by yourself. It's mean that how we building the collaborative alliance is very important. So we see that how our lab is become the lab as a services that this is only lab in Indonesia, but we know that there is many opportunities to do it not only inside the lab, but also with other partners. So the lab should be a lab as a services with some partners. And also we prepared our lab as a national testbed for Open RAN, because Indonesia is an island country. We have more than 70,000 islands. So the rural areas still many there, and still more than 1,600 areas not covering with internet connectivity. So also the important thing is how we preparing not only about the implementation or deployment, but how the local product also get a chance to take a part of the deployment of Open RAN. So we're working with the Ministry of Industry, how we preparing about the local manufacturing initiative. This is our program for a couple years, 3 years until now. So Indonesia TIP program pillars, we do it. First one is build awareness, because we do know the Open RAN still not yet very known. Some stakeholders still asking about what is the Open RANs, and then also some misperception about that. So in the first years, we're focusing in brand awareness, many webinars, how we do it, the roadshow to the MNOs, and then how we discuss to have the same next step. We do it together. We do it in the first years. And then after that, we do it the test and the validation, and the trial and deployment, and also, like I said before, how we build the local skills and also the capacity. And the last one is the very important one, how we can take a part in Open RAN, in the global market. We preparing about the local product to build like the local manufacturing in Indonesia. This is the current program that we running. So we are working with the tower company who want to transform to become the neutral house. So this, our partners, the tower company, want us to assess them. So they want to know about the technical aspect, about the regulation compliance, and also about the business model and process. We do understand and we do realize that we don't have any experience of that. So the blueprint is very important, how we start to do, like this is the blueprint, it's like a basic level, how we started and how encourage the tower company to transform to become the neutral house. So thank you so much to the TIP, to the network as a services playbook, because we learned so much from this reference. So how TIP Community Lab in Indonesia take a lead, because with this program, like I mentioned with our tower companies, we starting with collecting the reference as a basic and starting point, and then also TIP Community Lab as a host, as a hub for all the stakeholders. So we have a link. So we gather all the members, like a regulator, MNOs, vendors, SI. So we hopefully that with TIP as a lead in this program, so we can gather together, we're working together, and then have a new result, and maybe we can also give you a new blueprint, Indonesia blueprint, as a next blueprint for a global, and also become a new reference for TIP. This is a network as a services solution that we gather and take from TIP. You can see that many things we can learn from the blueprint. This is the open source that we learning so much. This is like next knowledge sharing for us from the books, and also it's very important not only from the network as a services, but how we have an engagement with people, and how we have a good relationship with many members from around the world. TIP Community Lab around the world is very important. This is what we took from the playbook, how we can encourage the tower company and our partners. We learn about the strategy and design from there, and then also about the high-level network architecture, and also about the design. So we're starting from how we design it. We're starting also about how we can deploy it, and also the important thing, how we can manage about this. So we learning from the scratch. So this is still a long journey for us, but we do believe that with this collaboration through the TIP Community Lab, and us as a lead together with all the stakeholders, I think this is will be good as a start point. After we do the roadshow with all the stakeholders, this is the concern about the Open RAN. So from the MNOs, from the vendors, and also talking about the certification. The MNOs mentioned about the interoperability complexity, and then identifier release management. So if you can see, there is still many concern about the Open RAN, but Blueprint is very help us to answering that question. This is our lab, so we do it the test and the trial, and then also we do it the field trial. This is the activity in our lab. So all the MNOs, the vendors can go to our lab, working in our lab. It's open for them to working together over there. So the equipment is in our lab, but the backhaul in the place of the MNOs. So we allow the vendors and MNOs to do tests and validation, and TIP Lab Indonesia as a hub for collaboration. So last but not least, I do believe that still this is the long journey, but people to people, how we manage between the people, how we can encourage people to people, maybe region to region is very important together between us. So I hopefully maybe this is a first step, but I know will be a next step and a good one. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Leah, for the presentation. So in the interest of time, I'm going to ask my panelists to join me, and please hold your questions for Leah to just during the panel or after the panel. Okay, so great. So you've met 3 of the 5 panelists. Can I just ask Arnab and Sergio to just introduce yourselves quickly and say what you do before we start?
Is this working? Okay. So my name is Arnab, and I'm part of Capgemini Engineering, and I lead our connectivity practice, which is all about Open RAN, both wireless as well as wireline technologies, front haul, back haul. And we've been part of the ORAN community, ORAN Alliance, TIP community. We do a lot of work in both having our own technology assets and software components, as well as a lot of network engineering, system engineering work. We're doing quite a bit of that, blueprints, things like RIC and all of that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along in the panel, but happy to be here.
Sergio.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Sergio García. I am the head of RAN pre-sales covering Southern Europe, Latin America, and Caribbean. I am looking after main accounts like Telefonica and others in Latin America, in charge of RAN solutions like Open RAN, private networks, and all related to RAN. So, a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, so why don't we start with something simple? I'd like to start with you, Arnab, since you and Sergio didn't get a chance to present. Why don't you tell us a little bit in terms of what have been the challenges around Open RAN in terms of scaling Open RAN beyond just the few green fields that we know about?
That's right. I think the colleague or friend from VMware kind of teed up that topic. If you look at it, the concept, it's disaggregated both horizontally and vertically. What I mean by vertically is you have the infrastructure, then on top of that you have the CAS layer, on top of that you have the 3GPP functions, on top of that or side of that you have the ORAN Alliance function, and different components in this vertical stack is at different level of maturity. This is one. Horizontally, of course, since it is disaggregated, you've got the RU, you've got the CU, DU, you have different topologies with which you can connect to the SA core, NSA core. So there are a few things that work. I think the front hall interface, RU, DU, a lot of work has happened. There is estimations. I think Andrea Donna talked about all the work that happened before the announcements that he made this year at Fyuz could happen. And we were part of it along with the network vendors. But if you go up the stack, the concept of SMO, the concept of rake, and CSON versus RIC, what value it brings in, the concept of O1 and O2 interfaces, a lot of these things are also moving parts. And in this I would say, dynamic equilibrium, what does a blueprint mean? If we create a blueprint and my colleague here, after 2 months says, well, as per our RFP, your deployment topology should meet this, and that's 60% away from the blueprint. So what happens to the blueprint? So those are some of the topics that we would like to kind of discuss. There are a lot of experiences there. It's moving forward, but we have some gaps to cover. Anyway, I'll just stop here. And,
yeah. Sergio.
Yeah, I would like to mention 2 main challenges that Open RAN has nowadays. The first one is features parity. So currently, the top 3 vendors has more than 1,000 different 4G, 5G features, when actually only a few hundred of them are deployed by the operators. So this means big entry barriers for new challengers. So operators should, if they want to have a rich ecosystem of Open RAN vendors, they should focus only in those features that are critical and key for their networks in a first stage. The second main challenge of Open RAN is volume. We all need volume to scale. Okay, so for example, nobody can pay off the investment of designing, developing, and manufacturing a multi-band radio, split 7.2, if then this radio is going to be deployed only in a few hundred of sites. So the same thing applies to DU servers. So currently the price of a DU server is almost double the price of a traditional VBU. So we need volume. We need volume to make vendors, to allow vendors to make a return in their investments.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about volume, and Arnab, you were talking about the complexity of the whole disaggregation in vertical and as well as the horizontal side. Holger, do you have any comments on this to add from your CSP view?
This is working. I think the technical issues have been addressed already quite well. What I would like to add is the contractual issue. Yes, so when we started with the O-RAN journey, I would say not even the ink on the 5G contracts was dry, right? So, and then you consider that typical life cycle of a radio network is between 5 and 10 years. And we started 5G deployment a couple of years ago. So I think there's a lot of frustration in the industry that O-RAN is not evolving as quickly as everybody hoped for. And I think that is one of the key reasons that we simply cannot swap out working equipment that we just procured 2 years ago. We need to wait for the point in time when there is the next modernization cycle. And as 5G was just, as I said, deployed, it takes a while. So I would expect, I guess last time we met here together, you said in 2027, roughly around 30%, can I say so? And I think that is more realistic. So we will see an uptake of Open RAN in the coming years.
Yeah, and in fact, our forecasts kind of show 2026 onward, which would be the inflection point when we will see. And I believe there'll be some refresh cycles of the operators going into the next few years. So that'll be also interesting to see how operators might change. Those who had deployed the first generations of 5G might change that. Leah and Ray, do you have any comments?
Okay, so from the academic perspective, because in Indonesia, this is really new about the Open RAN. So MNO itself still learning about this. They don't have a fit, maybe a skill set to set up about the Open RAN. So we need to upskilling and capabilities in Indonesia. And because like I mentioned, in Indonesia, there is 1,600 locations. So this is going to be huge. We need a lot of resource. So the skill set, upskilling certification, something like that is very important. Not only do the trial, but how we can deploy and how we can build the open RAN in the field with a lot of resource. Yeah.
Ray.
Hello. Oh, so is it challenging? Challenging. We get the challenges from the open RAN from our operator. The three main issues they discuss. One is the device stability. And the second one is the maintenance complexity. And the third one is the equipment cost. They told us the equipment must be cheaper than the traditional ones. So, but now in Taiwan, the equipment is not cheaper than the traditional ones. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I can go back to you, Sergio, just to start understanding what you as a vendor have done in order to increase the confidence of the operators when you bring your solutions and you partner with others that produce other components in the solution to help. We talked about certification and blueprints.
Well, in the case of Mavenir, we are fully compliant with ORAN Alliance, with the 3GPP standards, and moreover, at this point in time, we can proudly show references, commercial references like this in US, where Mavenir has successfully integrated and deployed our RAN software solution with third-party radio vendors and third-party core providers. So, but if you ask me how we can go beyond these commercial references, I believe that the work that the TIP is doing with these certification badges that can demonstrate the features, let's say the features compliancy and the maturity of the solution, this is of great value for operators to create much more confidence on the different solution of the RAN vendors, and at the same time save a lot of time in internal lab validations that currently spend a lot of resources.
Mm-hmm. Arnab, maybe just go to you. Yeah, please.
Just to add a dimension there, see, individual components, whether it's the RU, DU, functionality, one part is the word functionality, which is the compliance to specification, working group 3, 4, or front hall interface. But if you look at from an operator's point of view, functionality is the hygiene factor. I mean, if that is not there, then it's not even a question that whether the equipment is in contention. I think the general feedback in this year's Fyuz is that the maturity of vendors in terms of functionality is there. But now we are talking about issues like automation. What does it really mean for a operating company of a CSP to say that, okay, for these sites, I'm okay to look at ORAN. Why look at ORAN and not the traditional 5G, which is super efficient? Everybody knows how to plan, design, and deploy. So what extra will it bring? Will it bring me 30% reduction in OpEx in turning up a site, and then you multiply that by 10,000 sites, and then the advantage is really strong. And if you saw Andrea's statement, he says this can be achieved in the medium term. In the immediate term, even in this year, he showed what is happening is it is almost like 30 or 40% manual per cell site. So things like automation, and this is where the higher layers, where there is still a little bit of, things have to resolve and fall in place, that how does SMO work, how does multi-domain orchestrator works and things. So those are the areas that needs a lot of attention to really make Open RAN deployable, and the blueprints that we are talking about, the design of the blueprints, which will be meaningful for operators, that they'll say, okay, if a solution is coming in which is blueprints, silver badge certified for this blueprint, it means that it is deployable with 15, 20% less TCO. So that is what I think we are working towards, both with operators and with the equipment vendors, because this is an area which is orchestration, automation. That is something that really needs to be considered to make it deployable and meaningful for all parties. That's what we feel.
Yeah, fully agree that automation is an important part. Holger, just maybe to you, given Deutsche Telekom's done the trial and you're in the process of deploying, is there anything you can add in terms of what you've done, what you can say in terms of automation and the role it plays?
I think the role of automation is unquestionable, although I would agree we are not there yet, but I see that we will go there in the next few years. I mean, to a certain degree, right? That helps us to scale. When it comes to how we build confidence, I think you already mentioned our trial, right? So we had a big trial around town 2 years ago, which helped us a lot to understand where we are with Open RAN and what needs to improve to come to the point where we are today, where we can start real deployments. Yeah. Forward looking, now we are doing this with 2 vendors, Nokia and Mavenir, in 2 different countries, and a lot takes place in our labs. The question is, do we want to keep it like that and their blueprints and certificates kick in? So we would be very happy if we could offload the greater part of those tests to some other lab that we can trust, where we don't need to repeat the things because they have been repeated already a couple of times, and we can simply concentrate on the missing 20% that come on top.
Right, so you're saying that trust is an important issue in this whole process?
I think so. So in my view, we wouldn't, let's say, when we do it on our own, we can trust what we do. That's simple. But we don't want to do it on our own because it's too expensive on the long run and too complex. So if we go, let's say, to an open lab, a TIP community lab, an open test and integration center, there needs to be an established relationship. We need to know the people. We need to know the processes and how the test plans are executed. So I don't see us running to a different lab for each and every certificate, or I don't see vendors that want to come to us for an RFP, go to different labs all the time. That's what I also referred to, right? So I don't see we have 100 labs on the planet in the end. It will be fewer, and I would imagine that every operator has 1 or 2 very trusted relationships to labs.
Mm-hmm. Maybe if I can go back the other way and start with you, Ray. We talked about the labs and the importance, and obviously there's a number of labs around. So how do you see the importance of that, and how can they help scale so operators like DT don't have to do everything and then another operator does everything?
Okay. Through the Beijing testing in the community lab, we can provide a qualified device to the ecosystem. And in addition, before we start the Beijing test, we discuss this requirement test cases with our vendors. And the test cases mainly from the MNO requirement. And the requirement is they will likely to connect their existing network, the requirement. And so for vendors, getting the badge is very nice, but the value part. But what is the most value part is to take this as the preparation to meet the request from their potential customers. Mm-hmm. And they can enhance their capability to catch the business opportunity sooner and easier. A very good example for our lab is that some companies they getting badge from our lab, and they already been selected by 5G Challenge, and the Sonic lab can hold. So we have seen the Beijing program have created a very dynamic society. Thank you.
Thank you. Leah, can I ask you, from the academic point of view, how are you working with the community labs, for example, in Indonesia, in order to help the operators in the region and in Indonesia?
Okay, so I think the problem is quite the same because they sometimes the MNOs maybe not that open if we face to face between them in the meeting, so they want to separate meeting and different goals between them. From the academic side and as a host of the TIP Community Lab, we working closely together with the government. So it's very important how the ministry, especially Ministry of ICT, is something like a top-down. So the ministry give the regulation and then also give the task to the operators first. So so that's why they want to join to working together with us. And then as the facilitator, the TIP Community Lab, we are as an academia also something like in soldier, maybe we are also the commanders. So we're not following what they want, but also we gather them with the better solution. And sometimes, especially, they looking for the business side. So we're not talking about right now, but we propose something from the business side, maybe 5 or 10 years from now. So we're working closely not only with Indonesia teams, but like I mentioned, with the US, because some of friend and TIP Community Lab at US is already proven. So this is make the operators and also others members have an encourage to do and join in program and minimize the friction. How they want to do, like they style, they design, and they want to, finally they can follow our models. So yeah, I hope this is the new ways that maybe can prototype in others area. Yeah.
Thank you. Arnab, can I just jump to you in terms of a systems integrator? What is your role? Because obviously there is what Holger was saying, in order to have less labs perhaps, but more trustworthy labs, but then there's this third party that can help operators, maybe smaller operators that don't have the resources.
Right. No, this is very pertinent because I was kind of thinking about that. So for us, it's a business as a system integration because we are not academia. So which means that what is the monetization model? And Holger kind of referred to it a little bit for 30 seconds, that in the end, the operators have to pay for it somehow. But if you look at the process itself, so it's an upfront heavy investment, a lot of infrastructure, test equipment. This whole nature of this lab is fairly, capex heavy. So therefore, we need a decent amount of clarity on what will be and how will we have the return of investment. Would it be the operator? Would it be the equipment vendors? Why would they badge with us? Because is the blueprint mature enough that the operators are actually accepting those? Those are becoming norms in RFPs. Because then there's motivation for the equipment vendors to actually come and get it badged. Is a product being badged, or is a solution or a deployment model being badged? So as you can see, the thought is very much in the right direction. It needs to work. I think for the industry, we all have to make it work. But where we are today, a few things need to happen, so that it makes sense for us. The technology angle is addressed, the economic angle is addressed, that how we will be able to, as a SI, be able to monetize such a blueprint, certification, and badging lab. Why would the vendors want to pay for it, if at all? Why would the operators want, what value they get beyond a point that they'll continue to work with us, or is it a point in time, okay, the first few badges, first few blueprints, after that, we are okay. So this business angle, I think, is what needs a little more work. The technical side and the concept itself, we're very supportive of it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're part of TIP, so we support that.
Any comments?
Maybe as an answer, I fully agree to what you say. Yeah. So when I say what I say it from the perspective of a tier 1 operator. So we may be able to take a little bit more responsibility on our shoulders, but there are many operators that can't do that, and I guess there's a lot of opportunity to monetize on that, even if we are able to squeeze the, let's say, the inefficiency out of the system. Yeah.
Sergio, do you have any points in terms of how you can work with the vendors and the SIs in terms of getting this into the market, and who will take out this role? Will it be a specialized SI organization? Can it be a prime vendor that can do this?
No, I think, this, as I was mentioning before, the role that the TIP is doing as like a middle entity that can provide certifications, that provides confidence and save a lot of time to operators in a third-time vendor solution, that is the way to go. And on top of that, yeah, of course, system integrators, they are taking more and more knowledge as years goes by. And now, system integrators like Capgemini, I think they can add a lot of value to Open RAN and help vendors like Mavenir in deployments in Europe, US, and other countries. So yeah, if we reach to this point of collaborating together, operators, system integrators, and vendors, I think we can move forward in Open RAN and go to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the next steps, so just part of my own research shows that, so certification is one thing, getting the end-to-end system working together is one thing, but then who will actually take the role and the leading role in rolling this out and maintaining lifecycle management? So I'll come to you, Holger, in terms of how do you see the role of operators working with the SIs, maybe those that are smaller and don't have the internal resources like DT does, but to roll out an Open RAN network and maintain it?
I think we touched on it already a little bit in the discussion before. So if you think about us, I think we could develop the muscles to do this on our own. Maybe we need a little bit of help here and there, depends on the task, but I don't think we need to let go too much out of our hands. And then it depends on the size of the operator in the end. I mean, there are already today operators who contract managed service models, right? So I don't think that will change too much. Mm-hmm. If the underlying infrastructure is coming from a single vendor or from multiple vendors, I don't see that big difference here. So from that perspective, maybe it's a 80-20 split on the globe in the end, 80%. Benefiting also from the 20% are doing, let's say the 20% also provide the lab infrastructure and work on the blueprints. That would mean this work needs to be done only once, and then let's say the long tail can benefit from what let's say the bigger players are putting into place.
Yeah, yeah. At this point, any questions?
Oh, hello. Okay. Hello, Peter Hoffmann from Capgemini. Holger, you mentioned as one addition to the challenges, the contracting, and that, of course, refers back to the roles. Can you be a little bit more specific about that challenge? The contracting of the O-RAN engagements, the roles of the different players.
Not sure if I get it correctly. When I talked about the contracting, I was talking about contracts we put in place. You mean about contracting new players? So,
for instance, yes.
You have a specific angle you want to?
Well, you know, as Arnaud was saying, you know, the roles SIs playing, the roles that different players are, the vendors are playing in the entire ecosystem. At some point in time, contracting will, you know, liability questions, and you know who owns the entire liability at the end. It will be the CSP, but you know what are the models, also the contracting models.
Okay, now I got you. I think there will be different models in the end, right? So, and that might be split it up in the market, like between the operators that will have more need for system integrators and the ones that have less need. In the end, what we see, whatever disaggregation you do, it means you take over more responsibility, right? And it's difficult to run away from this responsibility. You could do You could say, for example, the DU vendor takes care of the whole network. But if you do this and if you put liability on top of the vendor will tell you the right price for that. So I think it's always this thing you need to decide on how much responsibility you take, how much risk you take on your own, and what it means then in terms of CapEx you need to invest.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, just to, before the question comes in, just to kind of put a slightly disruptive thought. In an ideal world, if something is going through a blueprint badging process, which is fully aligned to what an operator expects, because they have played a role in defining it to the nth level detail. So once you are accepting a solution as a CSP and an operator, which has been badged, say gold badged of a blueprint, then why would you need somebody to own the liability? Because you know exactly what has happened, all the dimensioning, all the performance, scalability, all the end-to-end aspects of a network in deployment has been badged. So does it give a sense of reduced need to have one neck to choke with a huge liability on top, or would it be something that is just the way it is? There needs to be somebody liable.
I think that is a brilliant question.
Yeah, so let me just, sorry, Holger, just to add to that. So even if you do the sort of certification and the badging at one state, that's just one photo in time, because then there, all the equipment, all the versions and upgrades and everything that happens, someone has to maintain that. So who will be that someone?
Life cycle question, yes. But yeah, you were. It could be something interesting, because one of the perspectives of, the equipment vendors are very, this is the business that they are very, very familiar with. So taking the liability of a product that is deployed in the network and the terms and conditions from a telco is something not new for most of them, in fact, every one of them. But in the disaggregated ecosystem, when there are players like system integrators, maybe not for tier 1, think about tier 2 operators and others. How can the industry open up more players? Because for a system integrator or even a managed services provider, which has to accept, say, network uptime, SLAs, and compounded damages if it is less than 6 nines. So those are some of the entry barriers for potentially very innovative and disrupting, managed services provider. If there is a very strong process of validating and certifying what's going in the network, then does it reduce the perception of liabilities that you would expect somebody other than the operator to take? Just could be a potential thought, because that's where some of these ideas about blueprints and the process, it's not just about the lab. You talked about trust, so which means for somebody to issue that badge from a lab, need to qualify with compliance to all the processes of how things are tested and what kind of reports, etc. Otherwise, you won't be able to issue that badge. So from a lab perspective also.
Okay, thank you. Greeting from Zhonghua Telekom, Taiwan. Yes, my question is that, is it possible to treat the blueprints as an intellectual property so can see the protection? Yes, because basically here, usually you are all from the neutral levels, but for example, in my case, I'm the system integration in operators. So we are also very worried about if we do a system integration and create a very perfect blueprint, then some other operators may just simply copy it. Yes, so they don't have to put any effort, but they can share the benefit from the same blueprint. Yes, so is there any strategy to forbidden such issue happen? Yes, thank you.
Any comments?
Blueprint as an IP.
Blueprint as an IP. You want to go?
No. It's again, it's a very interesting concept. But if you think about Open RAN, it's all about openness. It's all about community. So somewhere that principle also applies. But if you for a moment, if you think from an operator's perspective, the whole idea of putting in a blueprint is to do once and deploy many times, because every stakeholder has to have some value come out of this. And if we put a strong IP regime around it, this will go the 5G radio access way, where core algorithms, encryption, whatever. Everything is controlled by essential patents, which at some level maybe inhibits innovation. But on the other hand, yes, if there is something superbly unique about a blueprint which is patentable, it has to pass a few tests, maybe. But I doubt if a blueprint will truly justify for a strong IP. It could be something that you have an alliance with an operator saying for the next couple of years, neutral hosts. I think you presented about neutral host. So this is how you implement a multi-technology, 2G plus 4G plus 5G neutral host. So you say that I have it and you try to monetize it by offering that you go to some other integrator, they'll take 6 months to even design and deploy. I've done it, I can do it in 3 weeks. I mean, just exaggerating. And that will give you the value instead of going for a hard, like, IP kind of a concept around blueprints, because that, I think, will restrict innovation to some extent. Yeah.
Okay.
If you
Just
if you add some.
I'm thinking maybe just one comment. I think but I just agreeing to what you say, if we start to restrict it, I mean, first point is, do we want to put each and every detail in a blueprint? I don't think so, yeah. So I think we are searching for the 80% that can be common testing, and that will not be the latest and greatest that you would like to put under an IPR. Yeah. But then again, this is, if we start to restrict it, I mean, what I would like to see as an operator, I want to see what others are doing, right? This is exactly creating that trust that we're talking about. The opus, I mean, I think when you think about who is owning a test result, I think maybe a vendor should own it because he paid for it and he's free in sharing it or not sharing it, also depending on what is in, right? I mean, a test is not always passed. It could also be that you come out of the lab with, let's say, not that good results, and you don't want to share that. That is fine. But I think if you want to limit the accessibility to a test plan, that would mean somebody else needs to develop probably a test plan around, and with that you drive fragmentation, because that would mean for exactly the same purpose you start to have different test plans, you start to have mushrooming, and then the scalability of the system is in danger. So I would be very much against the IPR on test plans and requirements.
Okay, one last question.
Yeah, Ramesh here from HCL Technologies. We have been participating in the Plugfest too, but my understanding or the reality is, it is only the adjacent layers that get tested, right? So the entire blueprint, I don't know whether it is being attacked yet from a Plugfest point of view. I just see a couple of adjacency layers between the front all or SM mode to this and that. So
that is the current state as of now, but I think the first steps have been taken in defining those 25 blueprints, which remember what was shown in the process. The compliance is actually the entry criteria. So individual products are the entry criteria. The focus of this initiative from TIP, between ORAN Alliance and TIP, is the TL levels that I think you showed. That is the end-to-end tests. And like I mentioned, yes, there are some technical aspects to cover, because the maturity of particularly the higher layers, the maturity of compliance to O1, O2 interfaces, the maturity of opening up the A1 interface between two different vendors, that is the state of the industry. But in principle, the blueprints are designed
I was about to ask that, that's a preclude. So even within E2 or O1 that we see, the interpretation of what people do, though they say they comply to that, but how it's actually implemented and how it's really driven, there are subtle differences. So it doesn't promote plug and play, actually, right? So if I tested one vendor, another vendor says I support that E2 with that E2 SM or anything else for that matter. So this whole blueprinting or interoperability testing, does it achieve plug and play for operator? It's still a question mark, and there is not like openness to access. Every guy cannot go to any other combination and say, I can insert my code into this and test it.
Absolutely.
Because it's still closed, and each of them I see a partner pattern, and they're only doing within that pattern, right? So they're not open to other people coming into that ecosystem. So there is still a partner curve, if I can call it that. Yes. Do you see that as a problem, or what is the effort taken to open it up and really get to that plug and play vision of Open RAN?
I would call it a challenge. I think that is another chance for blueprints, or for certificates you could go for, let's say, standard configurations. Yes, I mean, out of the bunch of open frontend profiles, for example, select the one that is most likely to be used by everybody. Maybe that turns the thing on, let's say, upside down, and in the end, vendors start to implement only that profile, which would also be helpful, right? So I think that is something that needs to be sorted out and to be found out during the process of getting closer to real certificates. But I think it is one of the challenges that we need to tackle when we want to come to really valuable certificates. I agree to that.
Okay, great discussion. I'm sure we can continue even more, but we've run out of time. So I want to say thank you to all the panelists.
Thank you. Thank you.